I think we're living in a time of extreme polarities. I think that things have to be pulled apart. Polarity, if you look at even studies in chaos theory, that there always has to be extreme polarities before there's a reorganization. And everything that is not consistent with a new level of energy or new level of consciousness is going to spiral apart. Every system in nature, before it evolves, goes through a period of chaos. It's just the way it is. And so information is what is causing this whole thing to accelerate, because you don't need an authority any longer to gain information. You don't need a priest or a rabbi or a teacher. You don't need a doctor to gain information. Because of technology, information is so accessible. So every time you learn knowledge, you become more conscious of the way things really are. And if you become more aware and you become more conscious, you can't have consciousness without energy. So there's an elevation globally of energy taking place. In fact, if I think back 5 years ago or 10 years ago and I walked out in front of an audience and I had to work to get an audience to a certain level of understanding, those days are over and we'll never go back to that again. Everybody is informed. So that greater level of energy, that greater level of consciousness is causing old systems and old paradigms to begin to spiral out. And so whether you're looking at the environment, politics, economics, religion, education, journalism, medicine, all of those paradigms are beginning to unravel because they're no longer consistent with a greater level of energy. So how then do we face these challenges is the big question, because if we face them in fear, then it's the very emotion and energy of fear that created them in the first place. If we face them with hostility and anger, well, we are going to be reacting and recreating the same outcome. So we have to embrace this understanding, not as in a separate way of like, you're over there and I'm over here, because that's the lie that we've been told, that separation is the way things really are. And in fact, in the quantum, everything is connected by an invisible field of energy, everything material, in fact. So then how do you unify everything material? And it's that elevated emotion called love or gratitude. So then when we begin to come from that level of consciousness, we experience less separation. In fact, our heart begins to open, our field around our body begins to expand, and that field around the body that begins to expand actually touches every other thing that's material from an immaterial place. That means then, when you're feeling love for yourself, or love for life, or love for the moment, every single person that you have a relationship with, if your signal is the strongest, will begin to affect their autonomic nervous system. We know this to be the truth because we've measured this over and over again. We can take a group of 750 people and put them in a room, and we can have 50 people in the front of the room wearing heart rate monitors. Now, it turns out, as you know the heart math team over there, Howard Martin, Roland, and Debbie, and all those guys, that when you're frustrated, when you're impatient, when you're resentful, your heart actually beats very, very incoherently. It beats out of order. That's because you're stepping on the gas and the brake at the same time. The survival systems are switching on, the stress hormones are being released, but you're not running, you're not fighting, and you're not hiding. So there's a conflict between the accelerator and the brake, and that's what causes the heart to beat arrhythmically. So then, when you switch from those limited emotions to elevated emotions, then you start feeling love and gratitude. All of a sudden, you begin to produce a very coherent magnetic field around your body. That energy is frequency, and all frequency carries information. So if you have 750 people in the room, and you have 50 people in the front of the room wearing the heart rate monitor, and you teach people how to elevate their energy, and to open their heart, and create coherence, and then lay the thought for the greatest good of everybody sitting in the front of the room, that their lives be enriched, that their bodies be healed, that their dreams come true, that the mystical find them. When you see the majority of those people wearing the heart rate monitors all go into heart coherence at the exact same time, in the exact same day, on the exact same meditation, you have to scratch your head and realize that there is no separation. In fact, it is that energy that binds all of us. So now, how do you change the world then is the next question, because if you're seeing those non-local changes, then those people that are feeling heart coherence, every person they're in a relationship with, that they are networked with, to some measure or some degree, will have an effect on their autonomic nervous system, where they'll feel more coherent or more loving in that moment. So then if you get a group of people all doing this around the world, and HeartMath has done great research on Project Coherence to show that, in effect, that it can happen on opposite sides of the world, you get enough people doing that, you start seeing everybody coming from a place of love. Now, what does that do? Something emerges. A new species, a new consciousness emerges, where we're all acting as one mind. The beauty behind those birds and those fish is when you look at them, they look at like one organism. They look like a bigger organism than they really are. The individuals are making up the whole, but they're connected and they're acting as one mind. So then the antithesis is also true. The way you control people and cause them to believe that they're separate is to create the stress hormones, because when stress hormones are released, the opposite happens. You contract. The energy field around your body is being used. The vital life force is being used and turned into chemistry, and the field around your body shrinks. Now you feel more like matter and less like energy, more like particle and less like wave. The very hormones of stress really endorse our senses, and we become materialists. So if we can't see it or smell it or hear it or taste it or feel it, it doesn't exist. And those chemicals then cause us to feel separation, because our senses fool us into believing you're over there and I'm over here. I'm over here and my dreams are way over there, and I have to drag my body through space to get to my future, and it's going to take time. So our dreams are way out away from us, and it's going to take time for us to get to them. So now, get a community of people together that are all resonating at that frequency, you start to see dramatic changes that will begin to take place in crime rates, in violence, in economic growth as a result of a new energy. Now, but here's the deal. If you measure those changes when, say, in a peace gathering project where thousands of people are focusing on peace, and you start seeing changes in crime and violence and everything else, when those peace gathering projects end, violence and crime return back to the same level again. So it's not enough to just think it. We have to live it. We have to live that prayer every single day. We have to demonstrate peace. We have to embody it. We have to do it with our eyes open. We have to demonstrate it so that we give others permission to do the same. And so then the question is, then how do you become supernatural? Well, you have to first start doing what feels unnatural. That means when everybody else is in fear, that's when you show courage. When everybody else is hostile and angry, that's the time to show love and compassion. When everybody else is in lack and poverty, that's the time to give. And I think that gives people permission to do the same, because of mirror neurons. We want to emulate that behavior, and it counts the most in those moments. It doesn't count when everything is comfortable and okay. It counts the most when you should be doing something else. And if you're able to go against those years, thousands of years of genetic programming hardwired into our survival centers, all of a sudden other people will begin to do the same, and you will see an emergence of a new consciousness. So in order for you to affect matter, you have to combine a clear intention, a coherent brain, with an elevated emotion, heart-centered feeling. This is the center of oneness. This is the center of wholeness. This is where our divinity starts. This is the union of polarity, the union of opposites. This is where it all comes together. And when you get it, and when you get that energy right here, it happens, and we've measured this. Once it's here, it's going to go all the way to the brain. It's going to act as an amplifier to amplify the brain. And when the brain starts to get super coherent, then it has very direct effects on the heart. So what's the relevance behind that? Well, once again, the signal that you're creating on a daily basis is going to either work in a constructive way or in a destructive way. As an example, if you're walking around feeling sorry for yourself and suffering and feeling victimized, then you're actually emanating that signal into the field. And what you're saying is, bring me an experience equal to my suffering, but bring it in a way that I least expect, that surprises me and leaves no doubt that I've created this outcome. So in a sense, we're not punished for our sins, we're punished by our sins. And sin is an attitude. So then the opposite is also true. When you teach people how to connect to the energy of a future dream and be defined by a vision of the future instead of the memories of the past, to believe in their future more than they believe in their past, to fall in love with their future more than they fall in love with their past, and be able to combine that clear intention of that future and begin to feel the emotions of that future before it's made manifest. They're broadcasting a whole new signature into the field. Now, the beauty behind that is that the longer you're conscious of that energy, the more you're drawing that future to you. It only takes one person to change the consciousness of the planet. We've seen it too many times. And nobody chose those people. Nobody chose any of those people. They chose themselves. And God, I'm sure Martin Luther King felt a lot of fear every day, but it didn't stop him from showing up and being great. I think Gandhi, was uncompromising in his will, and he was principled, and other people caused them to see the same vision that he saw. And so, gosh, what a time in history now, because it's so important for people to see that so many things that are collapsing in the world currently today is because a new paradigm has to evolve out of that. And every single person has to be the example of change, no matter what position they're in. And if we do this enough times, we give other people permission to do the same. I believe that in time a prison could become a monastery if enough people begin to make those changes. And it's not like abstain from life or abstain from living, but something else is transformative is happening where, wow, you make your change in a great place, and you get closer to love, you get closer to gratitude, you get closer to freedom, you get closer to joy, you get closer to bliss. And now it doesn't matter what environment you're in, you're happy with yourself. And I think that's when you really get out of jail, when you really get out of prison. When you're feeling unhappy, when you're feeling angry, I think you want other people to feel the way you feel, and I don't think that's a conscious process. And so people who hate themselves hate others, and people who are angry with themselves are angry with others. People who suffer, for some reason, love to be around other people that suffer. Get enough people in a state of joy, and get enough people in a state of love, and do it in the proper way, not positive thinking. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something completely different. True execution, and to be able to measure that and say, hey, I actually did it. We have devices that can teach people how to do that. Wow, God, and that becomes your journey. You're not going to be part of the tribe in the same way any longer. You're going to be something different, and other people are going to notice it. And when other people notice that you're not showing up in the memory that they have of you, because we don't see things how they are, we see things how we are. When you show up differently in the smallest way, people notice that. You're out of phase. There's not a pattern recognition any longer. And you're not responding or reacting, or you're not doing the same thing in the same way. I think other people notice that right away, and they move closer to that because they're waiting for someone to lead. Well, what if everybody's leading? I think it's a powerful message. And when we do this in prison systems in Latin America, my whole thing is not only bring the family in, but let's do something where we can begin to affect the world. That's when it becomes really, really important. Well, if you think about this, and I've thought about it a lot, when you receive something favorable, or you've just received something favorable, if something wonderful just happened to you and surprised you, or something amazing is happening to you in the moment, you feel this feeling of gratitude. So the emotional signature of gratitude is something just happened to you that's wonderful, or something that's happening to you in the present moment is truly amazing. So gratitude is the ultimate state for the body and the mind to receive. So we only accept, believe, and surrender to information that's equal to our emotional state. We never accept, believe, and surrender information that's not equal to our emotional state. And you could say, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, and your body's going, no, you're not, you're miserable, you're unhappy, you're suffering. Because the body and the mind are in opposition. Turns out 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 is a set of programmed habits where the body becomes the mind. So if we can move out of that state into a state of gratitude, then the body's believing. It doesn't know the difference, remember, between the real life experience that's creating the emotion of gratitude and the body in the state of gratitude by thought alone. So the body's believing it's living in a new environment. When it's living in a new environment and you begin to program it with certain thoughts, you can begin to influence the body to change. So the body begins to receive information in a state of gratitude. And that energy, when we feel gratitude, begins to do something so beautiful. We've seen this so many times. When you feel gratitude and your heart is feeling safe enough to create and move out of survival, it starts informing the brain. It starts sending, like if you took a big sheet and you give it a little quick rip, it would send a wave. Well, you see this kind of wave of energy move right into the brain, and the brain moves into a very coherent creative state called alpha brainwaves. Now, the heart is informing the brain it's safe to create now. It's safe to have new ideas. It's safe to be present. And the heart starts producing more energy that begins to flood the brain to be more creative. So then the thoughts that the person thinks in a state of gratitude are more unlimited. They start believing in themselves, and you can't believe in yourself without believing in possibility, and you can't believe in possibilities without believing in yourself. So gratitude is the state in which we begin to open the heart. It's a state in which we're able to receive. The body is believing it's in a new environment, and the body's way more programmable, and we can program the autonomic nervous system into a whole new expression of chemicals, hormones, gene expression, and everything else. And immune regulation, we've measured all that, and the body just gets stronger because it's out of stress and out of survival. Programming is called programming, whether it's TV or whatever, for a reason. Because when people stare into a screen, we'll just say a TV as an example, what they don't know is their brain waves are slowing down and they're suppressing their analytical facilities. And what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. So when you stare into a TV and you're not thinking and analyzing and you're in trance, you're very suggestible to information, and you can begin to program your autonomic nervous system into all different kinds of states that most people don't even know. So you watch television commercials, they're playing with your psyche the whole entire time, causing you to think that you need something outside of you to change your internal state. So we decided, my goodness, if we can teach people how to move into trance with their eyes open, then create a movie where they're the star, and make it as unlimited as you want, whatever that is, that you can program your autonomic nervous system in the same way. And just like when you hear a song on the radio and you start thinking of a time in your life with a certain person, a certain place, and a certain time, that song is recalling events from the past. Well, you could do the same exact thing with a mind movie. When you combine it with a song and you're watching this movie of your future, if you keep watching it enough times, when you hear that song, it's going to cause you to remember your future, just like remember your past. And people begin to program their subconscious mind in very, very interesting ways, and they start having these incredible opportunities show up in their life because it's programmed that way. So we ask people to make movies of their future, and within the realm of their understanding and acceptance, to begin to watch that before they go to bed at night, instead of watching some horror movie or some violent movie. Let's program you into just feeling really good about you and believing in yourself, and program yourself into a more unlimited state instead of a limited state. So we use the mind movie technology all the time, and we teach the science of how to reprogram the subconscious, and it produces some pretty powerful changes in people's health and in their lives too. The walking meditation is so valuable, Fritzy, because you could have the best meditation in the world, feeling all holy, all connected, in a great place of gratitude and love, and then you get up, you open your eyes, and there's somebody that's pushing your buttons, and you forget everything, and you return back to your old self again. There's no possibility, because that's the same. It's the same energy, it's the same personality, it's the same life. So then, what if you have been practicing how to open your heart and you got really good at it sitting down? What if you could stand up and practice that same exact thing, close your eyes and raise your energy and get in that state, and then say, okay, I'm going to open my eyes now, and I'm going to practice, just like rehearsing lines in a movie. I'm going to practice becoming this person. So how would I walk? How would I breathe? How would I move? Let me embody this energy. Let me get in the habit of how I'm going to be as this new person. And so practicing it with your eyes open creates the habit of you becoming somebody else. And I want people to walk as if it's already happened. I want them to walk in the power and the energy of who they are. And do it enough times till they become it. And when you become it, you stop trying to have to do it, because when you are it, you won't go unconscious. So use the walking meditations as a tool, just like anybody that you're practicing anything, to take your body out for a test drive. Take the animal out and condition it into a new state, and practice it with your eyes open, so that in time when you go from your cell outside to the basketball court or to the weight room, or you go from the mess hall, where you eat, back to your cell, you're walking like a noble being. You're walking in the energy of power. You're walking in the energy of who you are, and you keep doing that becomes who you are in time. So we've seen people in walking meditations, I've seen this so many times, start the meditation with crutches. And by the end of the walk, their crutches are in the garbage can, and their chronic health condition is gone. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, numerous times. So we had a guy that was in the event just a couple months ago in Cancun, and he was a war veteran, and had broken his back many times, had a terrible PTSD. He was in really bad shape. He took all kinds of drugs. He was suicidal. Nothing was working. Then they did surgeries on both his knees. And when he came out of the surgeries, the pain in his feet was so bad that he asked the doctors in time to cut his legs off, to cut his feet off, because he couldn't tolerate the pain. And they said, we can't guarantee that, because you may still have phantom pain. You still, even though you don't feel, the brain may still think there's pain there. And so he came to the event, and gosh, just a really beautiful man, and just didn't know much, just tell me what to do, I'll just do whatever you tell me, sweet Green Beret. He was like a special ops guy, so he fell out of planes, he did everything, and his body was pretty beat up. And he had one moment, and when we laid down after a meditation, where he felt this energy course through his nervous system. When he opened his eyes, he had no pain in his feet. Now that was just the start. So when he got to the walking meditation, he started the event in a wheelchair. When he got to the walking meditation, he had 2 crutches and walked on the beach with 1,500 people with those crutches, just making it. And then the next day, I see him out there with 1 crutch, and he's just leaning on that crutch, and he's practicing, going against everything he learned to be the hard guy. And he starts opening his heart, and the wind starts whipping, and his body started to believe that he was in a new environment, because the emotion was so strong. The body thought that he was in the environment where he was healing. Now, in about 10 minutes, and I didn't know much about him, but I saw him with the crutches. I'm watching him run down the beach, and I'm watching the volunteer running behind him holding the crutch, and he smoked this guy, and then turned around. I see him running down the beach the other way as fast as he can, and there's no volunteering where he left the guy in the dust. To this day now, he has no pain. He runs now again. He's completely happy with himself, happy with his life. He's in a new body. He's in a new life. He's in a whole new future. And now all of a sudden we're getting all these veterans now, because all the guys that were in his branch, and all the guys that he fought with and who struggle with their own health problems, mental health and physical health, are showing up because he showed them what was possible. So we have no idea what we're doing today, whose lives we're going to affect tomorrow. We have no idea what possibility looks like when you change. That's the unknown, and that's the cool part about it.